So, hello, welcome to Cup of Three. 2020 has hit Married at First Sight this episode, and it's
Finally.
hit it hard. So, it's been very interesting watching this because we kind of we're in it, so we know that it's going to happen, and just seeing the joy in their lives and see them go to restaurants, not knowing that you're not going to be able to do that at one point. So, enjoy it while you have it. But yeah, enough chit chat. What did you guys think about the pandemic in particular and how it affected our different couples here? Mabel?
Yeah, I think that some couples saw some good things, like Miles and Karen spending some more time together. Seems
Mm.
like Karen was relaxing a little more, so really good for their relationship. Not so great for others, like when Brett moved out.
Oh.
But I think what was interesting about both of their relationships is that both Olivia and Karen are essential workers. And I was like, wow, both essential workers, like both really at the heart of what's going on right now. And they are in their own relationships seeing polar opposite effects of it. So I thought that was interesting how the pandemic just impacted their relationships so differently.
Definitely. Yeah, and I can imagine that being in this arranged marriage, being only a couple of months in, and then if you are an essential worker, like dealing with the weight of the pandemic and like literally seeing the effects of that, if you're working in healthcare specifically, like that must be I don't even know how you would begin to process that in the moment and like also be trying to show up in your new relationship and figure out if like that's going to work for you or not. I think there's another layer to it where everyone is approaching the pandemic in different ways. People are able to approach it in different ways depending on what access you have, like what type of work you have, if you can do it remotely or not. It seems like Miles, they just closed down the school and like, of course, like maybe did a bit of a transition to virtual learning, but like that doesn't like everything is flipped upside down. So I empathize so hard with them of like, I mean, I know what it felt like for us to go through the I mean, we're still in the pandemic now, but like especially in the beginning part of it, it was really, really hard to adjust to like, okay, I have to accept this new reality that like I can't go hug my grandma. That's just not an option. You
Yeah.
know, and like all those layers to it. So just I I just can't imagine going through all of that together. Just the pandemic in itself is a lot.
Yeah, it really is. There's so much to talk about. I don't even know
Yeah.
where we should start. Well, Mabel, you had a great point with the essential workers. I think I kind of want to start with that. Um, that I think must be just incredibly so. At least I know for me personally, in the beginning of the pandemic, I was like washing down groceries. I was going all in. Um, we had all the disinfectants in the world here, and the idea of having a partner who is going in, I would be incredibly proud because they're helping, and this is you need them in particular in a time period like this. Once in a decade. No, sorry, once in 100 years or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What's a decade?
Mm-hmm.
That's 10. Okay. Once in 100 year pandemic. That was just my brain had to process all that at the same time. So having a person, be an essential worker, and even if it's not in the medical field, like, certain jobs where we need them so much in a time period like this.
Mm-hmm.
But I would personally be extremely concerned with that. And I think having to I've read that some couples, especially in the beginning, their partners were living in apartments separate from them, and especially if they had like kids that were at risk, they were kind of playing it safe and like, we don't want you to stop. Obviously, it's great that what you're doing, but we don't want to risk the family.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're in this weird situation where your spouse is working away. There were cases that I read where like both husband and wife or both partners were medical professionals. So now you're in a situation where you're like trying to drop off the kids to the grandparents, and it's so much to handle. So I just kudos to all the people who um, were medical professionals and essential workers. Thank you so much. And in the like within the show, just like you said, you're married to a stranger, and now you're going through this together. I don't know. It's so much, so much. Would you to kind of bring it to you guys? What would you do in that situation if you in that
So that's
hypothetical?
hard because essential workers are at the heart of what's going on. They are every single day with someone who they're exposing themselves every single day is what I'm trying to say.
Mm.
And I can understand when Brett was laying next to Olivia in bed saying, yeah, we're holding her down with Lysol every day when she gets home, because I also might be a little concerned too if I had a partner coming home every single day and giving me a hug and a kiss, and they were just with a group of people that are COVID positive. So that's scary. I would love to think that I wouldn't be, phased by it. But like even Miles, like he wasn't phased necessarily by the infection, like possible possibility of being infection part, but more of along the lines of like, I'm bored and I want to hang out with you and you're always busy and you're gone. Like,
Yeah.
I just think that, especially so, because I also started a relationship during COVID, and I just think that it's really hard to, if you're both not on the same schedule, so like you both don't have a lot of time right now, it's hard to just relate. And if that means like one person is an essential worker, like I can definitely see that taking a toll on someone's relationship. And like, unfortunately, some people not surviving that pandemic. So I would like to think that I would be a supportive partner if I were, having all these thoughts and the person staying at home kind of thing. But it would probably take me some time to get there to coming around to being that supportive partner.
Yeah, I think that would be incredibly hard. Um, I think especially if like you are the one that had to go out a lot. This there's this weird thing where like for us we've been able to, like, we both work remotely, so we're able to like be pretty unplugged from the world and kind of stay out of the mix and hopefully not, spread anything, or get anything, which would be great. But I think like the what also happens with that is you, at least just speaking for myself, it makes it way more scary to go out because you don't do it very much. So like even just like we got our flu shot like a couple weeks ago, and like going in with our masks and like being inside with other people, even though everyone's wearing a mask and we're trying to get done quickly and everything, I was very, very anxious and I just could not wait to get out of there. And but I think on the flip side of that, if you're an essential worker who maybe like worked at that Walgreens and like that's your check, you're going in, it becomes almost like normal a lot faster because you're always doing that. And you maybe are able to like accept the risk of it a lot quicker and just kind of like be like, okay, this is my situation. This is what I have to do to make it by financially right now. This is my best option. Like, I'll do what I can to stay safe, but like, this is what I'm going to be doing. I think you can kind of be okay with that faster than when you're just like someone like me who's just kind of like, nope, never going to go out again. Like, not to that extreme, but like, I'm able to do that. I'm lucky. So I think when you have, if I were in a relationship with someone, whatever the combination, I think it would be hard to see eye to eye on that, because like one person might feel like it's way more serious than the other person. And it's not that they're like, they think it's less risky or whatever. It's just they have a different understanding of like just acceptance. This is just the situation. We can't change it. So this is what we're going to do for now.
So I think one of the things that I found interesting is I guess I'm going to try to pose this more as a question, is I think it's a lot easier to be understanding when your partner has a job that is like in the medical field or an essential, essential worker, and they are still working. quite a few people have been affected in a pandemic in the way where their jobs, they're no longer able to work, whether they've been, furloughed or laid off. And even within the show, we have one participant who's a flight attendant. It's probably safe to assume that her job was affected by this, and we know Miles' job was also affected by this. And their relationship in particular, I found pretty interesting because you have one person who is going to work probably more now than she did before, in Karen, because it's essential. And then you have Miles who is at home and isn't able to work even though he wants to. And it's that like we kind of see with their scenes that he's trying to get affection and she's not showing that. And that has been their relationship this entire season. But I do wonder if part of that is just like frustration a little bit, where like I've been working a 12-hour shift or whatnot, and I get home and you were at home all day. And, I'm sure he's doing what he can, but I could see there being a little bit of resentment. And I know, said person would know, like, it's not like he chose to be this way. Like, this is just life has hit us, You can't plan for a pandemic. You could, but that's more on the government side. But of course, he's just reacting to the situation that we're in, and I think I would like to imagine I would be very understanding and get that this is just part of being with a partner. But week 1, week 2, week 3, a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, like this pandemic has been going strong for a while, and I could see that being a larger and a larger factor of just A, the financial stress, but then B, the stress of, in their relationship in particular, one person working so much more and the other one not. Um, what are your thoughts on that in terms of like the different work stages?
So the one thing I did think about when the pandemic first hit were those folks that were completely cut off from their family. And I come
Mm,
from a military family, and that the first thing I heard of was deployment. When I heard that, like
yeah,
one partner is gone, not coming home at super late at night, be clean, don't touch me. No, one partner is gone, and you don't
yeah,
like in deployment, you know a little more, but like in this sense, for a long time, and you don't know how long that could be. And that was when I thought about that, kind of like hit me. I was like, that would probably be the hardest for me, just because that means like I can't even argue with you about being, COVID infected.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
like
yeah,
that is just so hard. And I really do applaud all of those folks who are like, yes, I have a spouse or a partner, or
mm,
whatever that is, that's going into this environment willingly and being like,
mm,
yes, I also know I'm not going to be able to see my spouse, my child, my etc., my family for
Mhm.
however long. And that's just like that is probably the hardest thing of those who are like essential workers. That's probably just the hardest thing I don't know if I can get through.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And now it's like, uh, not only are you thinking about like, oh, I miss this person. I wish they were at home and we had our normal thing going on, but you're also worried about them catching the virus. Maybe I mean, it affects people differently, and you don't know if they'll be okay. And like, you have a specific threat to someone that you love and care about every day until whenever the end of this, however that shows up, whatever it looks like. It's not going to be one date. It's going to be another transition into, people keep calling it the new normal. I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, it's just change, which is constant,
Yeah.
I think that's what I would struggle with a lot, is worrying that like, is my person going to get hurt? Like,
yeah,
they're in a really unsafe place, being in public in whatever way they are.
Right.
um, it would be hard to like just accept that and be present and still like find there's still good things going on in life right now. And like being able to
Yeah.
still accept that while there are also awful things going on. Um, that's a really hard balance to strike. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess you're right. The new normal, that's everyone's go-to phrase for this pandemic. But another one that I've heard is it's an accelerator of like fact trends that have been going on slowly. Now we're just kind of fast forwarding that. And I think that probably is the case for relationships too, where if you, it was a relationship that was rocky before the pandemic, it's, I,
Fell apart.
there's been divorces. There's been plenty of divorces through this and breakups and whatnot. And I could see that being a factor. And then for some relationships, it accelerated that. Like we have pandemic babies as well, right? So like we got all types of fast forwarding going on through this. Man, this is a down topic.
well, I think what we're getting at too, and like what this connects to is with Brett and Olivia. I really think that was the breaking point for Brett because
Yeah.
he's a very black and white thinker. I think his approach to looking at the pandemic is very like kind of reduce contact with the public in any way possible kind of a thing to minimize the chance of exposure, of spreading it, of whatever. And Olivia's, I mean, she has to go into a hospital. She's working, she sees what this is like. She sees it every day. And I think I think from his perspective, he felt like she was too cavalier about it because when she went to visit her parents, that seemed to be like the big problem for him of like, why would you do that? Like worrying about her safety, I'm sure, the safety of her parents, his safety of like, do we know for sure that this is okay? And, traveling during a pandemic has like all sorts of considerations. And it doesn't seem like they actually had a conversation that like he was going to be moving out. Like,
Not according to Brett. He told her.
I don't know how many times they played that scene where she's on the phone and she's just like, where's all the stuff? And he was just like, yeah, I thought we talked about this. Clearly not, dude. Like,
food out of the pantry is gone, Brett.
He's like, no, I ate it. I was hungry. Gosh.
But then he was just gone, and she didn't expect that at all. And so, like, I don't know how you come back from that.
Oh my gosh. I don't know either. Like, Brett just up and left, like, quickly, like, not even thought about it, was just like, I'm out. And, okay, where was all of that conversation? Just, like, talking, because you're in a relationship, yes, you're married, but you're also in a relationship. Like, what are you going to just ghost your partner? Like,
ghost your wife?
This is not a first date.
She's got your number. She knows where you live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As the resident, I guess, douchebag defender is what I've turned into.
I thought you were calling yourself a douchebag. I was like, what?
No. Douchebag defender.
Me too. I was like, where is this going?
Apparently, because I was all about defending Zach last season. But I understood him in this. This was honestly, I think I kind of wish he had done this earlier. Like it's been pretty clear to all of us that they weren't going to work and that they weren't working. Like call it off, call it off. And he could have been a lot better with the communication. Clearly, like it's good for the other person to know, but they had different views on the pandemic. They had different views on having kids. They have different views on communication. They have different views on money. They have different views on
where they're going to
their
live,
friendships, where they're going to live. Like there were so many things. Like, yeah, you're going to be the bad guy when you break up a relationship anyway. So just break up the relation. Like it needed to come to an end. And this wasn't the best way of doing it, so I'm not going to defend that. This is being a dick. Even the thing when she's like, you took everything. He's like, I didn't take everything. She's like, the only thing left here is your coffee pot. And he's like, oh, I should have brought that. You're a dick. You're a dick. You know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. But I just there was nothing there, you know. So I was weirdly proud that he finally called it. Um, it's you know it just needed to happen, and I think there's a difference between her job, right? Like she is a medical professional, and then her going to see her family members and things like that. I could see why he was concerned, you know, like even if it's not for her family, you know, we're all a large community. So it's, if you're trying not to make it spread and go further, I fully understand his concerns there.
Mm-hmm.
So good job for calling it. Good job. Just do better next
I
time
mean,
when you
yeah,
do.
you're right. Like there wasn't really a lot left to fight for with them. Like they had their moments,
Yeah.
they had promising times, but like
Yeah.
they're they had a mountain of things to work through if they really wanted that marriage to work. And like I think about the progression that we've seen in our star couple, Amani and Woody, where like it seemed like from the beginning they were there's the hearts, yes. It seems like from the beginning they were already thinking of this is this is my forever person. I don't know him yet, but we're gonna like having that vision of understanding that like this is big picture stuff. Like this is my life partner now. And I think Brett and Olivia approached it with more of a cautious, this is maybe my forever person thing. So they let all the little things in that short term, short time that they had together as like this is the relationship and not never giving it the chance to see like if this is my forever person, does it matter so much that, X, Y, and Z, these small things? I think you really learn
Mm-hmm.
to let go of those small things when you can think big picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like we kept noticing throughout the season that Olivia and Brett weren't always focused on the other person more as like as much as they were just like independently thinking about them and incorporating them into their life.
Yeah.
And it just like came full like to the front when in the pandemic, you know, Brett and Olivia both were just, well, for different reasons, having to focus on themselves a little more. So Olivia going into work and not really having a whole lot of time to be at home. And then, yeah, she wanted to check on her family, so she went to go see them. But Brett took so much offense to that. He was like, everybody told her not to go. This was a terrible idea. The governor says everything's shut down and she's going into a car. Yes, at the end of the day, she is still her own person that will like decide. Just because you don't think it's a good idea doesn't mean that like
Mm-hmm.
end of the world. And it's just, and I mean, it was very clear when his friend at the end was debriefing with him about, did you learn anything? And he was like, no, I don't, what? I didn't learn anything about myself. Like, come on, dude. You are in a partnership here. This is not all about you and how you view the world and what you think should happen and your own opinions. Like, this is a whole nother person you're incorporating into
Yeah.
this life right now.
I mean,
Yeah.
even their cats didn't get along. Like his cat was so scratched up. You know, like there was scratch marks all over the poor guy or girl's face, you know? It's just ugh, it just I that was rough. And I
Yeah.
like it was rooting for them kinda in the beginning. Like it seemed interest. I don't know if I'd say I'm rooting for him. He was really awful at The Bachelor.
He was kind of
Uh,
hard to like, honestly.
Yeah, the
yeah,
whole season he was hard. Yeah.
He started off on a
yeah,
weird foot. Like, I think before we got to, at least for me, before we got to the bachelor parties, I was like, okay, I can kind of see it. Like, he's kind of rigid, but like when he was talking about, they do the whole montage of him doing stuff around his house by himself. Like, he was talking about how, like, when you're in a partnership, when it's making dinner, you're making dinner for us, not just making dinner. And, I love fixing things and I want to be that guy. And like, he clearly wants these things that are part of a long-term partnership, a marriage, and being with someone and making it work. But like there's so many hurdles that I don't think he realizes he's putting up around himself to prevent people from getting to him and being able to start that partnership. And he's just like, well, you failed to get to me. I'm right here. And they're just like, yeah, you've got 15 hurdles in front of me and we're in a swamp. Like, Louisiana.
yeah.
Um, so I like it breaks my heart that he couldn't have that like self reflection of.
Mhm.
I can't even say that you learned something really. There's not one thing that you learned from this experience. It was all Olivia's fault. Is that what you're saying? Like you're gonna repeat this pattern. We talked about this last season too. You're gonna repeat this pattern until you can start to self-reflect, start to look at what's happening, and be just brutally honest with yourself about just what happened. That's it.
Mhm.
And then reflect on it. Just think about it.
The closest thing he got to that was talking about, yeah, I need to be more, I don't know the word he used, but decisive is the word I'm going to use, about wanting to be with someone that wants kids now. And that was like the closest he got to like self reflection, learning about himself.
Yeah.
It was just like,
Yeah. But like we've seen that in previous seasons where the person thinks they know, like they give one answer during the interviews, but they really are kind of leaning the other way. I think the best example would be Jamie and Beth, where like they both said, "Oh, I might want to have kids," and then once they were together, they're like,
That's
"No, I
right.
don't want kids. You don't want
oh
kids?
my
Oh my
God.
goodness."
Oh my god.
Yeah, right. Like they both agreed on that, and also in that season, previous season with Amber and Dave, where he kind of came to the realization, oh, I do want someone who's religious, and his initial answer was like, as long as they're not one way, they're not to the extreme, and I think that was a factor for these two as well, where they're like they were different on their opinions on kids, and I think they didn't realize that until they were together, and then you start to like actually think about it for yourself, and you're like, oh, like a lot of his actions and a lot of the things when I heard him complain about things or point out things, he's in building mode, and he's building because he wants to have kids. And if you're in that mindset, like it's going to be hard to be with someone who isn't. Not to say, because he's so frustrating in his communication, and I get it. And honestly, I kudos to Olivia for like hanging in through that, because that sarcastic stuff is just,
It's hard.
oh, it's so hard to watch. It really is. And um when his friend was talking to him, like I could tell, I was like, oh, you hate this too. Like you're sick and tired of his
Mm-hmm.
constant sarcastic comments too. Like nobody likes this. So that's definitely an area that he can improve in.
Yeah.
So please do that. But I think if you were probably to ask Olivia now, she would probably tell you she knows for sure she doesn't want kids. I We haven't seen that yet, but from what I'm getting, I think she doesn't want kids, and that's fine.
Hmm.
But
I'm going to disagree with you there because I think Dr.
okay,
Viviana talked about this with her specifically when they had one of their couples sessions where
sure.
Dr. Viviana said it sounded like when you and I talked, before she was matched, that you could see yourself having kids with the right person in the right scenario. If that person and scenario happened to come along, then you could see kids feeling that thing. But you don't see kids coming before that. And it's hard to imagine that without the person. And I think I'm kind of the same way with that. We're like a couple years ago, you asked me if I wanted kids. I'd be like, I don't know. Like I've thought about it. I'm just not really sure. I'm not in that stage yet. But like being engaged and being with someone who I like a lot, and like
No,
it's easier to imagine that because it's like
boo.
this is who, shut up. Like this is who I would be raising these hypothetical children with, and like I could see how cool that would be. And so
Mm,
I'm like I lean in a different way now. So I think she's kind of
mm.
like that, where right now if you asked her, "Do you want a kid?" Like no, but I mean I would say that too because I'm not ready.
So I fully get that, right? And I definitely understand that. But like I've done this in my life as well, where like if I get asked something and I'm leaning towards no, I throw so many caveats in there that by the time you hit all these different caveats, it's not going to happen, right? Like, oh, do you want to? I'm throwing a party on Wednesday. You're gonna come over? Oh yeah, if I finish my homework, do all the laundry, say hi to my grandma, and like it kind of felt like that when she gave her answer. Like you throw so many things. So I'm not saying no, but the chances of me doing all this stuff is unlikely, you know? Um, and I think, and hey, people might change. Like it's just because I think she feels that way now doesn't mean that that can't change in the future, right? Like 5 years from now, she might love to have it, but like his mindset is you could tell he wants kids like in the
Yes.
next 2 years. And I just don't see her being in that situation that soon. Um, but like that's the least like that's probably like one out of the like 8 different things that they had problems with. So I'm not I'm not saying that that was the main thing, but I do think it was a larger factor
Mhm.
than they both anticipated. For
Yeah.
sure.
And I think there were some of like those realizations that came to light as they were talking. Even like Olivia, when she reflected a little bit, maybe intimacy was a bigger issue for him than I thought it was in the beginning, that kind of stuff, where she's starting to realize that there are these hard and fast, go-tos and deal breakers that she has in herself that she learned through these interactions with Brett. And
Mhm.
moving forward, I'm really hopeful for Olivia. I think she's just a really sweet person, awesome,
Mhm.
and I know she's gonna find a great partner. So I'm looking forward to like just following her life and through Instagram or whatever she feels like sharing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just think she's a great person.
Mhm. She seems like she'd be really fun to hang out with. And like I know we've talked about this before, but like just that idea of there are certain things that you learn about yourself only by going through a relationship, whether it's successful or
Totally.
not. I mean, successful in the sense of like staying in it long term. And so I'm glad that it seems like she's gleaned something from this experience, even though it didn't turn out how she hoped. I hope Brett reflects on it somehow in his own way. I'm sure he would never let us know if he did because vulnerability is gross. But
Ew.
yeah,
All right. Enough about them. Let's
Bringing
talk about
to more
Henry.
positive topics.
Oh, I was going to say Henry and Woody. I don't know if that's.
oh,
I don't know if that's a positive
I mean, their
conversation.
friendship blossoming is positive.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
positive one.
That is a great positive. Being accused of being gay when you are not by your partner,
Pretty out of line.
questionable
Mhm.
if that is positive. Um, so there's the we have I'm kind of started off. There's a scene where he and Woody are together, and they're at his. I think it's Henry's apartment, and he kind of lays out the whole accusation. I don't know if I even like the word accusation because that makes it sound like it's a bad thing, but whatever. The
Just
Christina's
yeah, she just says that she got a text saying alleging that somebody's sleeping with Henry, who's a guy, and he's having this secret or homosexual relationship, whatever.
alleged is better. That sounds like some good legal stuff to throw in there.
Alleged.
Alleged. Um, and I guess there's so much because we haven't really talked about it. This was kind of brought up earlier. And I think it was the next episode, he mentioned that his concern in the beginning, he thought this was initially true. And then once information, he wasn't able to he's like, oh, can you show me the text? And the story keeps on changing. He now thinks that she just kind of said that to hurt him in a way. Um, what are your thoughts on this? I guess there's not really any defending it. So just how do you feel?
Mabel.
I was so pissed when I heard that. First of
Mhm.
all, like, how disrespectful! Like, how dare you accuse your husband of having this homosexual affair from this random text that you got from, you don't know who the text is from, and you can't recover the text to show your husband. Like,
Mhm.
what level of disrespect do you have for your relationship to do that? Like, that just pissed me off.
Mhm.
And then to just not really talk about it, and maybe this was just me seeing it from like a viewer on the show. I was like, why don't you bring it up then and talk about it with each other? Like, if this is something you're actually concerned about because you actually got this text, where's a conversation to be like, hey, babe, just kind of let you know this came my way. I don't really know what to think of it, because we also haven't heard anything from her, whether she believes it or not. We just heard everything from Henry so far, and I'm just like, okay, well handled, Christina, very well handled. And so it was just like, how, like, I literally any other way to handle that would have been better.
Right. And it felt like her big zinger, like the big thing that was like, oh, I got you, is that he's, quote unquote, secretly gay. Not the fact that he's cheating on you in your marriage.
Yeah, right? Like you're accusing him of an affair.
Also,
Exactly.
look, there's not just gay and straight. There's all sorts of in between, upside down, and all sorts of other color combinations. Like he could be bi, but the cheating part would be the real problem, right? To be like,
Exactly.
she made it about like, oh, you're a deceitful person who's hiding this secret life. Like that is the most lazy way to cover up the fact that you're insecure, that he's not trying to feel you up every day because you're not being a great partner. And so it's very, very convenient for you to say, like, oh, it makes sense now because he's quote unquote gay. And that's why he's not attracted to me, because he wouldn't be because I'm a woman. Like, that is some very messed up. I want to cuss a lot right now. Like, it is incredibly messed up to
Yeah.
be like that level of projection and that level of manipulation, blackmail, just because you're trying to feel okay with the fact that someone who you're in a relationship with isn't trying to jump your bones every 2 seconds, because that's clearly all she wants, is to feel like he thinks that she's attractive. Deal with your shit in your own way, Christina. Like, do not put that on your partner. I don't care. I don't care how much problems you have with your appearance. Guess what we all do? Like, you can deal with that without hurting other people. And like that crossed every single line in the book for me. I was so done with her after that. I was like, nope, nope. You will do anything to justify your storyline, what makes you feel okay, at the detriment of everyone around you. Like, goodbye.
Yeah.
And that's
Also,
exactly what
like,
she did, because all she cares about is like being put on this pedestal, because she wants every little thing, all the way from beginning with flowers. Like, it's constantly, how can this person make me feel better, and how can this person show me that they like me? And what was that side comment she made to her friend? Why wouldn't he like me? I mean, like, I'm gonna make, like, acting like she's this perfect, amazing person that nobody could possibly like not like or get along with. Like, please dial it back, have some humility first. But getting back to the topic at hand, like, that was just so out of line.
totally. It definitely was. And like you said, lazy. It's just, it's funny how with the Brett and Olivia thing, Brett's a dick for leaving, but Olivia should have left a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if you want, it's clear she likes. So she wants someone to take charge and all this stuff, and she likes words of affection and all this stuff, and that's just not Henry. If you know that it's that big of a deal for you, just call it. I think the thing that scared me the more was just later episodes. So, when they're at the retreat and she's acting as if everything is fine. That's the thing. Like, you could tell even he was a bit concerned by this. He's like, wait, what? No, we're not in a good space. Why? And she's like, oh, okay, let's take this room. Oh no, let's do this. Like, it's just, what I'm missing. Am I missing something?
He knew that was going to happen too.
I mean, yeah, he called it. He's like, yeah, she's gonna.
He sees her clearly. Like,
Yeah, like they've been in separate bedrooms for this entire time. You could tell, like, it's just they're not in a relationship, and it's wild that she continues to do that. To give her the slightest, I don't know, I wouldn't say benefit of the doubt, but just to give her a little bit of credit. I think she did feel guilty after she said that immediately afterwards, because in other episodes she kind of touched upon it of like, oh, I didn't think that, I shouldn't have said that, blah blah blah. Like, she feels guilty, but you've done it.
I think she has to she has to know that, like, what she did wasn't okay. I think some level of her understands that. And I think in the moment that felt like a safe jab that like maybe he wouldn't bring it up or he would be too ashamed about this accusation to talk about it or something. But I think on some level she understood like that was not cool. And,
Yeah.
it's going to come out one way or another. Um, but like when Henry was talking to Woody about that, Woody was just like, "What? Sorry, what? Your wife said what to you, and you haven't talked
Yeah.
about it? What?" Like he was such
Yeah.
a like good reality check of just like, what is the point in this anymore? And I think like they're talking about going to the couples retreat or whatever, like because that was coming up for them, and
Mm.
Henry was literally like, "Yeah, I'm hoping to enjoy at least part of this experience," like talking about the retreat that he could hang out with his friends and like it, too bad his wife's going to be there. And like clearly he's just like hanging on, just counting down the days until
Yeah.
the super day. Like I mean, Henry has been checked out for a while.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
your point, probably should have called it a while ago. But Christina seems to be in
Yeah.
this world where like they're still on a path towards being together. Like
Mm.
I don't understand. Her
Yeah.
storylines are like it's so far away from reality. And
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Henry's my favorite so far on this season. Honestly, he's the best. But call it, man. Call it. Like what? Like it seems
yeah,
like he's at this
you're
point.
not
Like I'm
happy.
just going to enjoy this vacation and go to this retreat and do all this stuff. And I get that aspect of it. It sounds interesting, but it's just the fact that at a certain point, I think I would just be concerned for my general safety. Honestly, like if you can't trust this person, and like this, it feels like we're this feels like it was a lie. I don't know. Maybe she did get this text. I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to go into that, but if you think that she lied about that, she could lie about so many other things, man. Like at a certain point, it's just dangerous to be with a person like that. What if she lied about abuse, lied about whatever? Like you don't want to be in that situation. I get that it's a fun thing to do, but just I think that's the only thing that I'm a little uh, disappointed isn't the right term, but I wish he would have done better, addressed it differently. As soon as she says that, you say, of course that's not true, blah blah blah. You do that, and then you call it. You call it right then and there because I'm not going to be in a situation like this. That is terrifying to me.
I just think that Henry's more the person to be extra polite in the situation and be like, I don't want
Mm,
to make a big scene out of it. Like, this is something that I already know is going to have the opportunity to end on decision day. So
mm,
I'll just let that happen when I am given the chance. And he also knows himself very well. Like, he talks about, yes, not having confidence, and Christina
mhm.
uses that against him. But if you realize, like, he did not question that accusation you gave him about being like in a homosexual affair. That it was all you, Christina, and he was unfazed by it. He was very much like, excuse you, like, like that's when you really saw this other side of Henry come out,
Mhm.
this
Yeah.
confident side to be like, that is not okay,
Yeah.
that you crossed a line there. And for Henry, like, you do see these ways where he knows, like, he's just very self-aware. He spent a lot of time with himself and knowing where he wants to grow as a person and areas he wants to develop. And I think he also just is sick of it with Christina, like, just not being open and honest, because he is honest with himself, if anything. Like, he is not afraid to at least think, and talk about like those things that are really going on that are issues in the relationship. Maybe have a tough time having a conversation with Christina about it, but we've
Mm,
seen it with Pastor Cab. We've seen it with Woody. He's okay talking about it. It's just Christina sometimes is the best person to talk about it with. And so, yeah, like,
yeah.
Henry has a lot of positive sides to him. It was just, I think in this relationship, he was just like, all right, I would rather let it play out until I'm given the silent, opportunity kind of thing to politely leave this relationship.
Mhm.
I mean, I get that. I totally do. And yeah, you make really good points. Like, I could see that being his thought process. And um, if he was a lawyer, I would hire him in a second because when he's defending himself, it is like he's got details, he's got
Yeah,
facts, he's laying out a
he's
thesis,
got
and
the receipt.
like it's well, he's got the receipts. It's very well done. I guess my concern is we've seen in other seasons where people will say, "Oh, are you in this for the right reason?" Right? We're not going to say that about him because we like him, honestly, right? But like, if this was when it was Zach and Mindy, everyone was like, "Well, you know that you don't want to be in this. Why are you still doing that? Da da da. Are you in this for the right reason?" But it's Henry, and we all like Henry, and Henry is the best. Like he has that like underdog energy, so we're all like
Hmm.
on his side. But if he wasn't, I just that's the thing. I just kind of want
Hmm.
us to be fair in that, and I caught it in myself because, like I said, he's my favorite person on the show this season so far.
Hmm.
But when it was Zach, I was like, "Oh, you're doing this wrong." When it was Brandon and Taylor, I was like, "Taylor, what are you doing? Like, you don't want to be in this." When it's Henry, I'm like, "Yeah, Henry, get him, throw those facts."
Oh
Like,
yeah. Yeah, I think
yeah,
it's kind of that debate between in these marriages in general. Are you of the camp of if you know pretty early on that this isn't going to work for you, call it, or do you give it the time regardless, even if you're checked out? And I think everyone's going to have a different approach to that. And like to your point, Agu, you might kind of project that onto people differently depending on if you like them or not. And like
yeah,
this thing with Henry, I think he is very likable because it's almost like he was set up to be like this. They talk about him like he's some loser, like he just kind of like, showed up and got lucky to be on this show or whatever. Like that's not true at all. It's just that he doesn't
yeah,
have the um like our cultural definition of what someone who's confident is. He doesn't fit that mold. He is his own version of, I think he is actually quite confident. I just think he's held on to that label and that's held him back. The way he portrays himself in certain situations can be perceived as not being confident when I think there's other things going on there that have nothing to do, like he knows himself, like he's
yeah,
defending himself when he's being attacked unjustly, and he's able to articulate what's not okay, what is okay, and like, yeah, he's not perfect at communicating with Christina, but um,
yeah.
he's not like he's not like some scrub. Like he's fine. He's just different than how people think of a confident person. And so I think like
Can't get no love from me, hanging in the passenger side. I don't know if there's like a copyright claim or whatever, so I'll stop there. But
I'm sure they'll be
um,
calling us immediately, like take this episode down. So yeah, I just think it's like all this stuff about Henry's not confident. Oh, he's so shy. Like, oh, that's BS. Like, look at him for who he is, and like, nobody's one thing. We're all a billion zillion parts. So that's just like how he carries himself.
Do we want to shift over to talking about some of the retreat
Yeah.
activities? So, Stranger's Spouse happened during that time. Miles talked about Black Lives Matter. We had some couples that were just having a lot of fun on, the whole retreat aspect.
Hmm. Yeah. It seemed like they had the Stranger Spouses game was funny to me because Miles and Karen did so well, as well as did Henry and Henry.
Christina, they started off strong. I was like, oh,
They did.
snap, they're going to win this.
And like the questions were really obscure, where I don't think they were really things that you would know even with someone you know well. Like one of the questions was like, does your partner, when they go number two, crumple or fold their toilet paper? Like, I don't want to know that. Sorry.
I don't want to.
I don't want to know that. I don't want to get that right. That's a level of closeness that I don't want in my life.
Oh my gosh, that was so funny.
I guess
I'm
we're
very
like,
happy that we agree on that because, yeah, I don't want to know. I'm good. I'm good. As far as I'm concerned, Bay does not poop. As far as I'm concerned, I don't know.
this
It just
doesn't happen.
magically disappears.
I
It's
always
just
smell good
That
too.
is so
gone.
funny.
Ah. Yeah. So, like, that was
Oh
cute.
my gosh,
It
too
seemed like
funny.
they had
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone was just relieved to be around other people, which I could definitely understand of
Word.
getting in a
Yeah.
group setting. Um, it
Yeah.
was really cute when they were cooking. They're like making all this delicious looking food. I wanted to eat all of it. It looked so good. They're all hanging out in that
They
kitchen.
always make good food at the retreats.
Oh, man. They didn't have a crock pot
I
this time,
just
though. I don't know.
They messed
why
up. They
was
messed up.
did you guys notice Bennett was eating with a spatula in the he was eating a salad with a
What?
freaking no,
Oh,
sorry, not a spatula, a whisker, like the thing you used to whisk eggs. He was just like sticking it in the thing and I'm like, what are you
How
doing?
does that grab food?
I don't know. I don't know this. I just,
that's
oh man,
hilarious. I did not notice that. That
Oh
sounds
my gosh.
great.
just like they had so many gems.
He's doing what he does.
He's living his
He is
life,
Bennett.
being
He
Bennett.
is.
That was interesting. His like worm dance
Oh my
Oh my
was.
gosh, I
god,
love
he's
that.
doing the worm.
I think it
Oh
would have
my
been better if he didn't have the sound effects. Like if he just did the his struggle worm and not do the weird groaning, grunting thing he was doing. No one wanted that.
god.
No one wanted that, man. Just stick to the
Oh my
weird
gosh.
worm.
Because the worm on a tile floor, you're never going to have a good time unless you're really good at the worm. You're basically just dropping yourself on the floor over and over.
I mean, he also mentioned he's in a dress. Like you gotta maintain your modesty or whatever. Try
I
not
love
to.
that. He was just so confident with it. I was like, oh, own it, Bennett. Like, you don't have to be perfect. Own it. We love that. Like, everybody, whatever you want to do, you do you. You do it. Nobody's watching. That's great.
You do your thing.
Mhm.
God.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
love that. That was so funny watching him do that.
it really. Oh my goodness, I really
Mhm.
enjoyed. It's these couple retreat episodes are starting to become like my favorite, one of my favorite parts of the season.
Mhm.
Um, because at that point, like they're like relatively friends. Like they've been through quite a bit. I mean, this season in particular, they were uh, going through a pandemic and like they were together. The couples were together longer than normal. So there's that. And there's you feel like you know these people a little bit more. So
Mhm.
seeing them all together, it's really cool and interesting. Um,
Miles and Karen
bef-
got super competitive with the
That little ladder
slinging.
ball thing.
That was funny.
yeah. I feel like they get competitive a lot.
Yeah.
They're about
Yeah, they were cute.
Karen. I guess I did want to say I like that they were able to touch upon the the social unrest that's going on in the pandemic, and um, it's we kind of mentioned how we had like two medical professionals in a pandemic, like how weirdly like fitting that was. It's like a great little time capsule of this time period, and having Miles, who is a very Afrocentric person already in this time period as well. It was great that he was able to talk about it and bring his perspective to it. And um, I just it's like you couldn't have planned it better. Obviously, they didn't, but I feel like in a situation like this, you want someone who can articulate and give nuance to what the different perspectives, and he was perfect for that. And even Karen's words as well. I was really, as you guys know, I've not been the biggest fan of their relationship, but this is just I was really really proud and happy
Yeah.
that they were able to do that, and I'm happy with the show and that the show was able to address that too. And a lesser show would have tried to gloss over it and be like, no, nothing is happening. Don't worry about it. Everything is fine. We're all good. It's what's over here? Nothing to see. And like the show was able to talk about it and do so in a smart and respectable way.
Yeah.
So, like I know if we wanted to like go into details about the about it, that alone is like multiple different podcasts and whatnot. I know racism was solved because we elected a black president, but you know, that's
That's a
sarcasm
joke.
before before anyone thinks otherwise. But um, I was just really happy with how they addressed
Yeah.
that. Um,
Yeah, I was really proud of them because I think it must have been such a personal choice to want to talk about that in that setting. And I could also
sure.
imagine that there's a lot of pressure to be like, okay, I mean, they have four black cast members on the show this year. So, with what's happening in just the United States during that time and what has been going on for a long time, do you use that platform? Are you comfortable, like, kind of processing your trauma on TV and finding a way
Mm,
to articulate that in a way that other people are going to understand and doing that in a way that you feel okay with, like, and I think when Miles was saying what he wanted to say, I think Karen was kind of surprised that he was being so open, but like was really proud of him. So I think that was a good moment for them of being like, okay, this is my husband. He cares about these things. He's going to speak his mind, even if other people are maybe a little uncomfortable. And just being able to be vulnerable when it's a really
yeah,
intense time for so many reasons.
Mhm. And
yeah,
I think it was so important that it was brought up on this show because that is a platform to speak on. And a lot of times, when those of us who really like to be involved in diversity, equity, inclusion conversations, folks who come to that table are already a part of that group and or like just wanting to make a difference. So a lot of times it becomes an echo chamber. And when you start to have those conversations with either someone you a group of people you just met relatively, or you were just having it on television, that is a platform to just showcase these are opportunities for conversations to start happening. It gives way to that and it says how okay it is to have those conversations and how they really should be integrated into our everyday society. And this is not a, hey, great things are happening, people are getting married. And then over there's like kind of some bad stuff. Like, no, this is like our
yeah,
society, this is our life, and both are married together. And these are things that are happening every single day. So I love that it was brought on such a public platform to be talked about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah. I think too,
yeah,
like Christina's reactions to things, like not only that moment, but other times when they were like doing the letter thing and where they like write a letter to their younger selves and just like other moments, I felt like it surprised me how emotional she got. Um, where she, I think, like, especially with what we were just talking about with her and Henry, of like the big accusation and how Woody knows about this, by extension, Amani knows about this. Like, they, it just seemed like every time she got emotional, everyone was like rolling their eyes at her. And
yeah,
it was
yeah.
rough. Like, she just, again, feels like she's in a whole other universe throughout this whole thing. And like, that was kind of painful to watch, honestly.
Mhm. Yeah, like it comes across sometimes that she's just not very genuine with her, trying to be empathetic or just trying to relate to some topics. Like sometimes you don't know something, that's fine. You don't have to be the expert in the room to solve it all. Like you're saying you're sorry. Like, did you do anything? Like, what are you saying? Like, it's just very. She's trying to like be somebody that she's not, and like it's okay to have those conversations. Like it's okay to like learn and want to be helpful, but genuinely want to be helpful, not want to have the solution already, in front of you. And
Well, I think she wanted to stop being uncomfortable.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
That was.
That just struck me as nervous talk, honestly.
Mm.
And also not a big fan of her, but in that situation, I'm giving her a pass on that one. What I would not to kind of leave the topic a little bit, but when she was kind of like her weird her tears thing that you kind of mentioned, and she's like,
Mm.
"Oh, it's good to be with you guys, and it's good to be with my close friends." I don't like. We know that Woody and Henry hang out. We know that Woody and Miles are close friends. Who is she hanging out with out here? that she's like tearing up. My close friends, like
Girl.
who?
Yeah.
Like the cat? Like maybe production? Like I don't know about that. The tears, and some people are very emotional, and I get that. Maybe not emotional, but some people are, uh, yeah, expressive in tears. Wow, that was a very PC way of saying that. But
Not real.
yeah, yeah. Well, I was doing the southern thing where like you like give them the honey.
Praise sandwich.
She's the sweetest.
You heard of that?
You know, she's so sweet. Wait, what?
I've heard it referred to as the praise sandwich. So you start with something nice like, Mabel, you look great today. Your jokes were awful, but I love your earrings. So then you cap it with two nice things. And so you're just like, oh my God, Ashley.
Totally
Yeah,
like, unrelated.
Shit, Mabel, you gotta fight her now. You gotta fight her. She insulted you.
Oh no, there is a phrase that you always use when you're talking about Southern, like those backhanded, like, oh, I can't remember it now, but it's like
She's the sweetest thing, but she's dumb as rocks. Like that type of thing where it's like you start.
not those words, but like
I apologize for my accent, everyone, but like. You see, I'm not even going to say Southern community because that's just bad to everybody, and nobody needed that accent. But like, oh man, it's crocodile tears. It's what it is. It's just, it's so hard to see, and just don't like. I get it. You feel uncomfortable in that situation. That's cool. You don't have to talk.
And that's expected.
You know,
But
like
Yeah.
your spouse doesn't like to talk in that situation. It's fine. So just channel Henry. Channel Henry. He has it right. Just in general, she kept on. She just had this whole thing. Or you kind of mentioned a different world where it's just she just makes it seem as if they're closer friends than they actually are, and that I don't like. That feels like when you're in a club and a guy's like, "Oh, this is my a goo. What's up?" I'm like, "I saw you twice, man. I was drunk both times. I don't know you. I don't know you, man. Like, just don't like that type of stuff." But
like we see this a lot from her. Like this entire season has just been like a couple different things of her. She like acts like she wants to be this confident person who is so self-assured and knows herself and such a funny, personality that just gets along with everybody and is best friends with everybody. And it's just like, what narrative are you telling to whom? Like,
because it's completely self-protective, where I think that's the major disconnect, because the person that you're describing that she sees herself as is not who she actually is. And she's not either acknowledging that or she's ignoring that. Like either she doesn't understand that is happening yet, where there's just like just a complete lack of awareness. So like I think she literally is kind of like living a different storyline than literal reality, because everything is twisted to fit what makes her feel okay. And that's why we see the thing about the big accusation. That's why we see her reacting all these really strong ways to different things. If all her best friends are here and they're just like, we never hang out or talk, and it's rough.
And like, then you don't really get to have them have good conversations about their issues. You hear Christina like bring some things up about him not being as confident as she wants him to be, but like they never have actually constructive conversations about the relationship.
Talk.
Which they don't talk, which was really funny in the car ride home. Oh my gosh. That was so funny in episode 15 when it kicked off. The episode 15 kicks off with all the couples leaving the retreat. And you have Amani and Woody partying out, dancing in the car. And then you have Miles and Karen still having, their own dance moves in the car. You even have Amelia and Bennett like having fun and grooving out in the car.
Yeah.
And then it just cuts to Christina and Henry.
they should like put cricket sounds or something back there.
That was editing.
Yes,
it was.
Chef kissing.
Kudos to the team Well done with the editing on there.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine
Um,
like being on production as soon as that's happening? Like, oh my gosh, you know what's a really funny way to portray this? Like, whoever thought of that probably had so much fun.
the worst part is I feel like they had so much footage of them just being awkward around each other that they didn't even have to look that far. Like this entire season, it's just them sitting next to each other. And like the amount of times I can think of them like just sitting across from each other and they're just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like do something. Do something.
Mhm.
Gosh.
Mhm.
It's a struggle. I feel like we
Oh,
haven't oh
I wanted to say one more
the,
thing about the
yeah,
conversations in the retreats. So Bennett just always has really interesting things to say. Like he words them very well and he has interesting thoughts to say. So like
true. Yeah.
talking about being in a pressure cooker where the situation is that they, they're getting married in this and they're in the middle of a pandemic. Like he is really good at, similar to Miles, understanding himself and what's going on and communicating that very well. I just love
Yeah.
hearing
Mhm.
like the conversation like contributions that Bennett makes because he doesn't always talk and he's not like the person who's always out there in the group, but when he does talk, he has some impressive stuff to say.
Mhm.
Seriously, like he is a great communicator. He really is, and it feels measured and accurate, and like it feels like he's summarizing everyone's
Yeah.
thoughts every time he
Extremely
does
well.
that. It's a great skill to have. I don't know what I gotta select in the genetic lottery to get that skill, but I that would
Yeah,
be
he's
nice.
extremely thoughtful
Um,
and like really
mm,
analytical about the world and
yeah,
how everything's working together. I really think he would be an excellent professor of like um theology or something like that, where it's like those kind of big ideas.
dance,
Huh? A dance.
dance.
He would
I'm
be a dance
sorry.
teacher.
Yes,
Or he would
please.
become like a professor at like a fashion design academy with all his little
Oh,
outfits. I can't.
that watermelon shirt that he and his partner was wearing.
Did you notice that, Mabel? They were wearing, he had a watermelon shirt, matching shorts, and then
Uh,
Amelia was wearing a watermelon shirt when she was talking to her friends later. So I don't know if they got matching shirts or she was wearing his shirt, but I
No
love that
way.
energy.
he was. It's probably more likely that he
They're
was wearing
so
her
cute.
shirt.
That's like when they're matching for their little
Dark.
black
Yeah,
date. Oh my gosh. That was
their little outfits.